Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel and welcome to another DIY. Now, I've done lots of t-shirt cuttings in the past, which I will link them all down below if you'd like to check them out. But in today's, we're going to be cutting kind of like a t-shirt dress. Now this one is more like a tank dress, so I'll try it on for you on the side here so you can see what it looks like before we do anything to it. Now my plan for this is to turn it into like a really cute bikini cover up. So I wanted to still be fitted, but I wanted something of that really like nice stretchy fabric, which is what this is, but it's just a bit ill-fitting and I'm on the curvier side but with a very small waist. So I want to find a way to kind of cinch in my waist, but also have enough fabric around the rest of me, which is why I tend to go for larger sizes. So that's what this one is. Now what you're going to want to do first is put it on yourself and you want to mark where your waist is. Now you can do this in many ways. You can pin it, you can put a bit of chalk on the front of it. I like to put safety pins. So you can see here that I've already safety pinned this one and I'll show you how I did that. So what you want to do is you want to find the side seams and then kind of walk your fingers in on both sides so you find the midpoint of kind of equal distance on left and right, and then put the safety pins there, otherwise you'll tighten one side and then not the other and it won't be equal. So you want to kind of just try and mark it roughly. Again, with this sort of t-shirt cutting where you're tying it, it doesn't have to be exact because it's very hard to go wrong because you can adjust it so easily. So it's actually a very fun and very easy DIY and absolutely no sewing involved. So all you're going to need is your item of clothing, a pair of scissors and safety pins if you would like to, or just have fun with it and just get happy cutting. What you want to do now, once you've marked your waist point, is you want to lay it out just nice and flat, work out where those side seams are and your rough safety pin points, and just kind of stretch it out so you can see what you're working with. So this is what mine looks like so. So the first step we're going to do is we're going to sort these safety pins out. So we're going to cut, I know that sounds scary, along the seam, both sides, so you want to try and make it equal. Mine aren't the most equal safety pins like on the front and back, but like I said, you just rough it. So I'm just going to cut neatly to that safety pin. And then kind of depending on your item of clothing, you're now going to work the rest out. So this point where the safety pin is, that's your waist. So if you're like me and your hips then go out a lot, you want to make less of a cut going around the hips so that it doesn't kind of squeeze you, but it works the same. If you've got loads of excess fabric around your hips, you're going to want to kind of draw your body shape almost, and same goes with the bust. So up here, you only want to go until the armpit seam, so just under the arm here, and you want to kind of adjust it to your body shape. So I'm going to cut some, I'm going to match these, I'm going to do two that match the waistline. So you should have like two little strips like this. And then I'm going to go a little bit less and then even less and just kind of work them like this. Like so. And we can touch things up once it's on depending on how it looks. So I'm just going to cut now the rest. So you should have something like this now where they're all kind of loops because we haven't cut them in half yet. So they should just look like kind of just like something's torn up the side of your t-shirt. So loads and loads of slits like that going all the way down. Now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. So I'll just run you through the process again in case you missed it. So you just want to find that seam, fold it in half along the seam. Then using your safety pin that you marked, I'll just zoom in a bit for you guys. First step is we're going to cut to the waist point. So just like that, and then you want to cut a strip either side about the same length as where you marked your waist to be, because that's what's going to make it nice and tight to your waist. Now I'm going to cut slightly less of a strip for the bust. So I'm going to make them just a little bit less, so you can see they've kind of gone in about 1/2 inch. And I'm just going to do that all the way up to the armpit seam, like that. And then again, I'm going to start doing these ones a little bit less each time, just because these are now going over my hips and I don't need too much taken out of the dress on the hips. So I'm going to keep them fairly small. And you can always make them longer. So if when you're tying it you realise you want more taken in from the dress, you can always tighten it, but it's a bit hard to uncut what you've already cut. So always cut less if you're unsure. Now you can make this very neat and you can do the exact same number of ties on one side to the other side, but I just kind of do each one about 1 centimetre in thickness, and I find you'll never notice that there might be 1 or 2 more on each side. So that works for me. Now as I get near the base, I'm just going to cut them a little bit longer, just because I had a bit of excess under kind of my hips. So I want to just make it a little bit tighter. Now what you want to do with all these slits is you want to kind of find the midpoint. So you want to take one slit and you want to chop it in half. And annoyingly, you need to do this to all of them. So just go along all your slits and just chop them in half, because this is what we're going to use to tie the knots to almost make a corset effect down the dress, and it will look amazing, so it's worth the tedious chopping. And if you've got labels like me, just chop them out like this, because they'll get a bit of a nuisance. So just make sure you're just cutting what you're meant to. So you want to just find the midpoint and snip. Find the midpoint and snip. And if you're like me, you may not have made the midpoint the seam. So don't worry about that, because it's all getting tied into a knot. So just find the rough midpoint so that you can tie a knot with the 2 strands. So I've just finished one side, so your dress should literally, at the moment, look like you've just chopped it in half, because that is what you're doing. So you're now going to do that to the other side, and don't be scared, you are going to have basically 2 halves to your dress, but we're going to reattach it. So just go along. Oh, I'm getting all tangled in my dress here. Aha, here's the other side. So this is the one that I didn't do very evenly. So you want to just find the midpoint and snip. Find the midpoint and snip. So you should have something very scary and almost looking like a bit of an apron with no sides to it and just attached by either your straps or your sleeves. If you've got that, then it's correct. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some detailing to the front of it. So this is obviously optional depending what effect you want to get. So just lay out the front, and what you're going to do is just basically cut slits down the front, and it's going to just make it have a really nice sweetheart neckline. So I'm just going to lay it out so I don't cut anything I'm not meant to. So here's the front of my dress. So I'm basically going to cut along here, and they're going to get smaller as we go down. So I'm just going to make a snip and then just cut along and along. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I want this to be a bikini cover up. I think it's quite cute to have almost like quite an open front to it. But obviously if you want it to just be a nice summer dress, you can do this kind of like to less extremes or just not at all. So you can see here I'm literally just cutting horizontal slits down the front, and I'm just going to do a few more. and they're getting a little bit smaller each time. Like that. So all I've done is added some slits like this. So I've just cut literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little bars into the front of it where the V-neck sits. So the next step is the tying, and then we're done. Now I actually find this step easier to do when it's on me, so I'm going to put this on and show you how we do it. Now I appreciate that this is very much a trust the process kind of DIY, but please trust the process. So for those of you wanting to do the stylish front, this is it just up close so you can see what I did. I literally just cut slits into it, and then you can either kind of tie them all together to make like a bow front like that, or you kind of pleat them together, but we'll do that last once we've tied the sides. So step 1 is to find the first of the 2 things that you need to tie together. Now these are going to be a bit funny because they're going to be almost like the seams to the top. So just tie them as best as you can. They're just going to start the process. So I just do double knots. So you just tie them and just nice and tight. So just literally a double knot like that. And we're going to do it in sync, so we're going to do both sides at once, just to make sure that we get the fit we're after and not one-sided. So I'm just going to tie those like that. And see, it already looks better. It's got some structure to it. So now we're going to do the second ones. So you can make them longer as well. So where you've cut them, just pull them out. So that you just like stretch them out, and they'll be a lot easier to tie. You just kind of give them a stretch and you'll see they'll go a lot more, skinny. I don't really know how to explain it. So let's do the second ones. Now the key thing here is to not miss one, otherwise when you get to the bottom you'll be crying. So we're just going to tie these nicely. So I might do a few at a time now and then turn to the other side, just for ease. Now I said it was an easy DIY, it's not a very quick one, but it's kind of therapeutic and it makes a really nice piece of clothing. So you can see that's all starting to piece together nicely, so let's do the same on this side. You can also make them more open, so if you want to actually see through them, you can cut them deeper into the top and then you'll get more of that sort of corseted effect. Or you can do it so they're almost invisible, where you cut them the exact amount and then you can tie them like very neatly tight, and then you won't actually be able to see through them. So you can kind of play around with it and get whatever effect you're after. Or you can just hope for the best and see what happens, which is kind of what I do. So I'll get a mixture of kind of corseted ones and tight ones, and it's always wearable.
Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, but I don't wanna jinx it, baby. Let's not get ahead of my time. Oh, but I don't wanna miss you, baby. So I stand up and speak just my mind. Oh.
You could pause at any point, so I've kind of got to this point, so I have still got my shorts underneath, hence why it's all looking a little bit lumpy. But it's kind of cute having an opening on the sides here. So if you did want it as a dress or a bikini cover-up, you can kind of keep a cute little slit in and style it that way. But I'm going to show you it all done up just for the effect, because that's what I think I want. But yeah, so you can just have it as kind of like a frilly open side. Or actually I might leave just a tiny bit open at the base. So I'm going to do a little bit more and then maybe leave the bottom 4 free. So the last step is sorting out the front. Now before we finish, we just need to make a tiny little hole just directly at the base here. This is just to put the finishing strand in. So what you're going to want to do is take the front one and you're going to put the one below it over it and pull it under like that. Then you're going to take the one under that, go over it and through it, and then hold that one. And then you're going to take the one below that, you're going to go over and through it, and then you're going to hold that one. And then you're going to take the one below that, you go over it and through it. Then you hold that one, then you go over it and through it. Then you take the next one, you go over it and through it. And now we're at the base, so you can see what that's done. It's just made a really cool ladder pattern. So I'm now going to cut this bottom loop in half, like that. And we're just going to poke one of them through that hole we did at the base. And you're just going to tie a double knot if you don't let go of it like I did. So I know it's a bit fiddly, but you just take both sides and you basically tie a knot. And that just means it won't undo. Just like that. Ta-da! And voila, we have the finished piece. So it just means that you now have a really lovely figure hugging option. So you can see that it's not baggy around my back anymore. It hugs like the waist and the hips. And you also have this like fun kind of frilliness going on in the sides. And I left just a little slit at the base just because as a bikini cover-up you don't want to be restricted at all, and so it just keeps it very comfortable. And then the front just looks like this, so you kind of get a peek on kind of what you're wearing underneath. It's almost like mesh, you know, it's got like a little bit of a peek hole where you can be like, ah, you know, I've got a bikini on underneath. But yes, so it's just a really cute option. And then if your dress is like mine where you've got these sorts of straps, there's loads you can do with these. So I like to sometimes cross them over. So we can do it like this. And then it just completely changes the look. So if you're wearing like a different bikini or you just want to turn it into a different dress, you can cross over the straps like that. And voila, you have pretty much a going out dress out of a very simple t-shirt tank dress. And that was so easy. I mean, all it took was a pair of scissors and a fair bit of patience. But that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. I'll link down below some previous videos I've done similar to this if you would like to watch some other crafts or get some other ideas. But please like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I'll also link my social media down below if you'd like to follow me on there. But thank you again for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.